What if everything you thought you knew about your family was a lie? Dr. Caroline Matthews thought she was just coming home to help her sick grandmother. But sometimes fate has other plans. 5 years after leaving Willow Creek, Caroline comes face to face with Ryan Thompson, her first love. The sparks were still there, but Ryan had changed. He was now a single father. "I have a 4-year-old daughter," he says, not knowing these words would change everything. Grandma Dorothy's eyes held secrets when Caroline mentioned seeing Ryan again. That evening, Ryan appeared at the door with flowers and a little girl who would shatter Caroline's world. The moment Caroline saw those eyes, her heart stopped beating. Those weren't just any green eyes, they were her green eyes. And when she saw the birthmark, the exact same birthmark she had, Caroline knew the impossible truth. This wasn't just Ryan's adopted daughter. This was her own child. "Are you an angel doctor?" little Lily asked, not knowing she was talking to her real mother. Ryan had no idea the woman he was falling for again was Lily's biological mother. But how was this possible? Caroline never had a baby. Or did she? Every laugh, every gesture felt familiar because this child was part of her. The connection between Caroline and Ryan was undeniable, but now everything was complicated. That night, Caroline realized someone had stolen 4 years of her daughter's life from her. But who would do such a thing? Who had the power to hide such a massive secret? The answer was coming back to Willow Creek, and she would stop at nothing to keep her secret buried. Where in the world are you watching from? This incredible story of family secrets and a mother's love is just beginning. Give us a like and subscribe, because what happens next will leave you speechless. The next morning, Caroline couldn't hold back any longer. She confronted Grandma Dorothy about Lily's impossible resemblance to her. "Grandma, that little girl, she looks exactly like me. Those eyes, that birthmark. How is this possible?" But Dorothy just smiled mysteriously, claiming she didn't know what Caroline was talking about. Yet something in her grandmother's eyes told Caroline that Dorothy knew much more than she was letting on. Desperate for answers, Caroline began investigating Ryan's adoption of Lily. What she discovered at the courthouse made her blood run cold. Ryan had adopted Lily as an infant, believing the mother had abandoned her at the hospital. The adoption papers were dated exactly 4 years and 9 months ago. Caroline's hands trembled as she calculated the timeline. It matched perfectly with when her sister Madison had mysteriously disappeared for a year, claiming she was studying abroad in Europe. Suddenly, memories came flooding back. After Caroline left for medical school, Madison and Ryan had dated briefly. Madison was only 17, rebellious and angry that Caroline had abandoned her for college. Caroline remembered the strange phone calls from Madison during her freshman year, the way her sister had seemed different when she finally returned home. Could Madison have been pregnant? Could she have given birth to Caroline and Ryan's biological child and hidden it from everyone? That evening, Ryan visited again with Lily. Caroline tried to act normal, but every moment with the little girl was torture. Watching Ryan interact with his adopted daughter, seeing the pure love in his eyes, Caroline realized he had no idea about the biological connection. He truly believed he had rescued an abandoned baby and given her a loving home. How could she possibly tell him that the woman he was falling for was actually Lily's birth mother? Would he even believe her? "Miss Caroline, will you tell me a bedtime story?" Lily asked with those innocent green eyes. Caroline's heart shattered as she improvised a tale about a princess who lost her baby daughter and searched for her across many kingdoms. As she spoke, Caroline watched Lily's face, seeing herself at that age, wondering what kind of mother she would have been if she had known about her daughter's existence. The maternal instincts she never knew she possessed were overwhelming her completely. Ryan observed Caroline with growing confusion and wonder. There was something almost mystical about the way she connected with Lily, as if they had known each other forever. He had never seen his daughter respond to anyone the way she responded to Caroline. "You're amazing with her," he whispered. "It's like you were meant to be her mother." His words cut through Caroline like a knife, because in a way that he couldn't possibly understand, she actually was meant to be Lily's mother. The irony was almost unbearable. As Caroline tucked Lily into bed, the little girl grabbed her hand. "I wish you could be my mommy for real," she whispered sleepily. Caroline's eyes filled with tears as she kissed Lily's forehead, breathing in the sweet scent of her daughter's hair. "Sweet dreams, my beautiful girl," she whispered back, the words carrying more meaning than anyone in the room could possibly understand. This was her child, her baby, and she had missed 4 precious years of her life because of someone's lies. On the porch afterward, Ryan took Caroline's hand. "I've been thinking about us, about what we had in high school. Being with you again feels like coming home." Caroline wanted to tell him everything, but how could she explain that the child he loved was biologically theirs? How could she reveal that someone had orchestrated the most elaborate deception imaginable? Instead, she pulled away gently. "Ryan, there are things about my family, about my past, that you don't understand. Things that could change everything between us." That night, Caroline tried calling Madison repeatedly, but every call went straight to voicemail. Finally, a text came back. "Coming home tomorrow for a surprise visit. Can't wait to see everyone again." Caroline's blood ran cold. Madison was coming back to Willow Creek, and Caroline was certain it wasn't a coincidence. Someone had told Madison about Caroline's return, about her connection with Ryan and Lily. The sister who had stolen 4 years of Caroline's motherhood was coming back to protect her secret, and Caroline had no idea how dangerous Madison could be when cornered. As Caroline lay awake that night, Dorothy sat by her bedroom window, holding an old photograph of Madison during her year abroad. The elderly woman had kept Madison's secret for 4 years, convinced she was protecting everyone involved. But seeing Caroline's pain, watching the natural bond between mother and daughter, Dorothy realized the truth could no longer stay buried. Tomorrow, when Madison arrived, everything would change. The question was, would the truth finally set them all free, or would it destroy the fragile family that Ryan and Lily had built together? Caroline called Madison's number obsessively the next morning, but every attempt went straight to voicemail. Her hand shook as she left message after message. "Madison, call me back immediately. We need to talk about Lily. I know what you did." But deep down, Caroline already suspected her sister wouldn't answer. Madison was probably already on her way back to Willow Creek, having been warned by someone about Caroline's return and her growing closeness to Ryan and Lily. The timing was too convenient to be coincidental. Finally, Caroline cornered Dorothy in the living room. "Grandma, stop pretending. I know you've suspected the truth about Lily all along." Dorothy's facade crumbled as she buried her face in her weathered hands. "Caroline, honey, I've carried this burden for 4 years. Madison made me promise to never tell anyone. She said it was for the best, that you were too young and focused on your career to be a mother. She convinced me that Ryan giving Lily a stable home was the right thing to do." Caroline felt betrayed by her own family's manipulation. "How could you let me miss 4 years of my daughter's life?" Caroline demanded, her voice breaking with emotion. 4 years of first words, first steps, bedtime stories, scraped knees. Madison stole all of that from me, and you helped her do it. Dorothy's eyes filled with tears as she reached for Caroline's hand. "I thought I was protecting everyone. Madison was so young, so scared. She begged me to help her keep the secret. She said telling the truth would ruin multiple lives. But seeing you with Lily yesterday, I realized I was wrong. A mother's love can't be hidden or replaced." Despite the emotional turmoil, Caroline's heart soared when Ryan arrived with a picnic basket and an excited Lily. "We thought Miss Caroline might want to have lunch in the park with us," Ryan said with that warm smile that had always made Caroline's knees weak. Lily bounced on her toes, clapping her hands. "Daddy packed sandwiches and cookies. Can we feed the ducks too?" Looking into those bright green eyes that mirrored her own, Caroline knew she couldn't refuse spending more time with her daughter, even if it meant living this painful lie a little longer. At the park, Caroline found herself naturally slipping into a maternal role. When Lily struggled with her preschool homework, Caroline patiently helped her trace letters and sound out words. "You're so smart, sweetheart," Caroline whispered, brushing a curl from Lily's forehead. The little girl beamed up at her. "You explain things better than anyone. Will you help me with my letters every day?" Caroline's heart ached, knowing she might not be able to make that promise. How could she commit to being in Lily's life when the truth might destroy everything? Ryan observed Caroline and Lily with growing amazement. "I've never seen her take to anyone like this," he murmured, sitting beside Caroline on the park bench. "It's like you two have some kind of special connection." His words were more prophetic than he realized. Caroline's throat tightened as she watched Lily chase butterflies, her laughter filling the air. "She's an incredible little girl, Ryan. You've done such an amazing job raising her." If only he knew he was raising Caroline's biological daughter and doing it beautifully. As the afternoon wore on, Lily grew sleepy and curled up against Caroline's side. Caroline's arms instinctively wrapped around her daughter, and for the first time in years, she felt complete. This was what she had been missing without even knowing it. The weight of her child in her arms, the trust of tiny hands holding hers, the responsibility and fierce love of motherhood. Ryan watched the tender scene with growing emotion. "Caroline, I need to tell you something. I'm falling in love with you all over again. And seeing you with Lily, it feels like we could be a real family." As the sun began to set, Ryan leaned closer to Caroline, his hand gently cupping her face. "I know this is complicated, and I know we have a history, but I can't fight these feelings anymore." Caroline's heart raced as his lips moved closer to hers. For a moment, she forgot about the lies and secrets. She forgot about Madison's deception and the impossible situation they were all in. All she could think about was how right it felt to be with Ryan, how perfect their little family felt in this moment. Their lips were almost touching when, "Are you going to be my new mommy?" Lily asked sleepily, having woken up at the perfect moment to interrupt their almost kiss. Caroline's eyes filled with tears at the innocent question. "Sweetheart, that's complicated," she managed to say, her voice thick with emotion. Ryan chuckled, ruffling Lily's hair. "Lily, you can't just ask people to be your mommy. Miss Caroline has her own life in Seattle." But Lily shook her head stubbornly. "But I prayed for a mommy who would love me and love Daddy too. And God sent Miss Caroline." The innocence of her words broke Caroline's heart. That night, Caroline locked herself in the bathroom and finally allowed herself to break down completely. She stared at her reflection, seeing Lily's eyes looking back at her. 4 years of birthdays, Christmas mornings, first days of school, all stolen from her by her own sister's selfishness. She had missed her daughter's entire early childhood, and now she was falling in love with a man who had unknowingly raised their child. The situation was so complex, so emotionally devastating, that Caroline didn't know how she would survive it. Tomorrow, Madison would arrive, and the fragile bubble of happiness Caroline had found would likely burst forever. Madison Matthews arrived in Willow Creek like a storm cloud, stepping out of a sleek black sedan with her fiancé, Senator James Harrison. Everything about her screamed success and power, from her designer suit to her cold, calculating smile. She surveyed the small town with barely concealed disdain, as if she had evolved beyond this simple place. But Caroline could see the tension in her sister's shoulders, the way Madison's eyes immediately scanned the streets, looking for signs of Ryan or Lily. This wasn't a casual family visit. This was a woman coming to protect her deepest secret. At Dorothy's house, Madison played the role of loving granddaughter perfectly, but Caroline wasn't fooled. "Grandma, you look wonderful." "And Caroline, what a surprise to find you here." Madison's voice was honey-sweet, but her eyes were ice-cold when they met Caroline's. "I heard through the grapevine that you were back in town. Such a small world, isn't it?" Caroline felt sick knowing that Madison's return was no coincidence. Someone had warned her that Caroline was getting too close to the truth, too close to Ryan and Lily. The timing was too perfect, too calculated to be anything but a defensive move. Senator Harrison watched the family dynamics with the keen eye of a career politician. "Madison has told me so much about her charming family," he said smoothly, but Caroline caught the way his eyes assessed everyone in the room like potential threats to his political ambitions. This was a man who couldn't afford scandals, who built his career on a carefully crafted image. Caroline realized that Madison hadn't just found love. She had found a powerful ally who would help her keep any damaging secrets buried. The stakes were higher than Caroline had imagined, and she was up against more than just her sister's lies. During lunch, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Madison dominated the conversation, talking about her successful law practice and upcoming engagement party. James and I are planning such a beautiful future together. No complications, no surprises from the past. Her words were clearly directed at Caroline, a warning disguised as casual conversation. When Dorothy mentioned that Caroline had been spending time with old friends, Madison's fork paused midway to her mouth. Old friends? Anyone I might remember from high school? The question seemed innocent, but Caroline heard the underlying threat in her sister's voice. Caroline couldn't take the pretense any longer. When Madison followed her to the kitchen to help with dishes, Caroline turned on her sister with barely contained fury. I know about Lily, Madison. I know she's my daughter. Madison's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing panic before the cold calculation returned. I have no idea what you're talking about, Caroline. You always were prone to dramatic fantasies. But her voice wavered slightly, and Caroline knew she had hit her target. Those green eyes, that birthmark, the timeline of a year abroad, it all adds up. You gave birth to my and Ryan's child, and let him adopt her without telling either of us the truth. Madison's facade completely cracked, revealing the ruthless woman underneath. Even if your ridiculous theory were true, which it's not, what exactly do you think you're going to do about it? Ryan loves that little girl. She's happy and stable. Are you really going to destroy a child's life just to satisfy your own selfish desires? The cruelty in Madison's voice was breathtaking. You think you can just waltz back into town after 5 years and claim someone else's family? You think you can steal Ryan back and play house with a child you've never raised? Caroline realized her sister wasn't just protecting a secret. She was willing to destroy anyone who threatened her carefully constructed new life. Senator Harrison appeared in the doorway, his politician's instincts sensing conflict. Is everything all right, ladies? You both look rather intense. His eyes moved between the sisters, clearly recognizing that something significant was happening. Madison quickly composed herself, slipping her arm through James's. Just catching up on old times, darling. You know how sisters can be. But James's sharp gaze lingered on Caroline, and she realized he was already calculating how much of a threat she might pose to his political aspirations. If Caroline exposed Madison's lies, it wouldn't just destroy her sister's reputation, it could end a senator's career. The kitchen confrontation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Caroline's heart stopped when she heard Ryan's voice talking to Dorothy in the living room. Lily wanted to bring Miss Caroline some flowers from our garden, he was saying. Is she still here? Caroline felt Madison stiffen beside her, and when they moved to the living room, Caroline watched her sister's face as she saw Ryan for the first time in years. The shock, the guilt, the fear, it was all there for a split second before Madison schooled her features into polite surprise. Ryan Thompson, my goodness, how wonderful to see you again. Ryan looked confused by Madison's overly warm greeting, clearly not remembering her as well as she remembered him. Madison, right? Caroline's little sister. You've grown up. His attention was immediately drawn to Caroline, his face lighting up with genuine affection. But it was Lily's reaction that spoke volumes. The little girl instinctively moved closer to Caroline, away from Madison. Children have an innate sense about people, and Lily somehow recognized that Madison represented danger. Miss Caroline, I picked these for you, Lily said softly, offering a bouquet of wildflowers while keeping her distance from the blonde stranger. As Caroline accepted the flowers from her daughter, she caught Madison watching them with calculating eyes. The pieces were falling into place for Madison, too. She could see the undeniable bond between Caroline and Lily, the way Ryan looked at Caroline with renewed love, the way her carefully constructed house of lies was beginning to crumble. Caroline realized that her sister wasn't just going to passive. The next morning, Caroline's phone rang with a call that would complicate everything even further. Dr. Helen Foster, her mentor and department head in Seattle, was calling with incredible news. Caroline, I have an opportunity that could change your entire career. The Children's Hospital of Boston is offering you the position of Chief of Pediatric Cardiology. It's everything you've worked toward: prestige, research opportunities, a salary that would set you up for life. But they need an answer by the end of the week, and you'd need to start immediately. Caroline's hands trembled as she held the phone. This was her dream job, the culmination of years of hard work and sacrifice. What Caroline didn't know was that Madison had been listening outside her door, and the phone call was like a gift from heaven for her sister's manipulative plans. Madison had spent the night awake, strategizing how to remove Caroline from the equation permanently. The job offer in Boston was perfect. It would take Caroline 3,000 miles away from Willow Creek, from Ryan, and most importantly, from Lily. Madison immediately began formulating a plan to use this opportunity to pressure Caroline into leaving town before she could expose the truth about Lily's parentage. It was time to play her cards carefully and ruthlessly. Over breakfast, Madison brought up the phone call with feigned sisterly concern. "I couldn't help but overhear your exciting news about Boston. What incredible opportunity. Chief of Pediatric Cardiology, that's what you've always wanted, isn't it?" Her voice was sweet as honey, but Caroline could see the calculation behind her sister's eyes. "You know, Caroline, maybe this is the universe telling you that it's time to move forward with your life. Seattle, Boston, there's a whole world of opportunities waiting for you outside of Little Willow Creek." The subtext was clear: take the job and leave town, or face the consequences. Caroline stared at the official job offer that had arrived by email, her heart breaking with every word. This position represented everything she had worked toward since medical school. The chance to save children's lives on a national scale, to conduct groundbreaking research, to establish herself as one of the leading pediatric cardiologists in the country. But accepting it would mean leaving Lily, the daughter she had just discovered. How could she walk away from her child again, especially now that she knew the truth? How could she abandon the little girl who had called her angel doctor and asked if she could be her mommy? Meanwhile, Senator Harrison was having his own private conversation with Madison about the Caroline situation. "Darling, I've done some research on your sister. She's well-respected in her field, but she's also emotional and impulsive. If she starts spreading wild stories about family secrets, it could damage both our reputations. My campaign can't afford any hint of scandal or family drama." His voice was cold and calculating. Perhaps it's time to encourage her to take that Boston position. A generous gift to help with her relocation costs might be persuasive. Sometimes the carrot works better than the stick. That afternoon, Caroline's world shifted when Ryan called in a panic. Lily had developed a high fever and was having trouble breathing. At the hospital, Caroline immediately shifted into doctor mode, her maternal instincts and medical training working in perfect harmony. "It's a severe case of bronchitis, but she's going to be fine," Caroline assured Ryan after examining Lily thoroughly. "I want to monitor her overnight just to be safe." As she adjusted Lily's for and checked her vitals, Caroline realized that being Lily's doctor felt as natural as breathing. This was her daughter, and every fiber of her being was focused on making her well. Caroline refused to leave Lily's side throughout the night, monitoring every breath, adjusting blankets, and holding the little girl's hand whenever she stirred restlessly. The night nurses commented on how dedicated she was, how natural she seemed with the child. "Are you her mother?" one nurse asked, and Caroline's heart nearly stopped. "I'm a family friend," she managed to say, but the words felt like lies burning her throat. She was Lily's mother, and watching her daughter fight illness triggered every protective instinct she possessed. This was what motherhood felt like, this overwhelming need to take on her child's pain and suffering. Ryan spent the night watching Caroline care for Lily with a mixture of awe and growing love. "I've never seen anyone care for her the way you do," he whispered during one of Lily's peaceful moments. "It's like you were born to be her mother." His words hit Caroline like a physical blow, because in a way she couldn't explain to him, she literally was born to be Lily's mother. "Caroline, I need to tell you something. I'm falling in love with you again, deeper than I ever thought possible. And watching you with Lily, I can picture us as a real family. Will you consider staying in Willow Creek?" Will you consider building a life with us? As Lily recovered the next morning, she looked up at Caroline with those bright green eyes and asked the question that shattered Caroline's heart completely. Miss Caroline, if something happened to Daddy, would you take care of me forever? Caroline's eyes filled with tears as she stroked Lily's hair. Sweetheart, your daddy is strong and healthy. Nothing's going to happen to him. But Lily persisted. But if it did, would you be my real mommy then? Because I love you like you're already my mommy. Caroline had to excuse herself to the bathroom to break down completely, overwhelmed by the tragic irony that her daughter was asking her to be what she already was. Madison's carefully laid plans began to crumble when she arrived at the hospital and witnessed the scene in Lily's room. Caroline was reading to Lily while Ryan slept in the chair beside the bed, exhausted from worry. The three of them looked like a perfect family, and Madison could see that her window of opportunity was closing rapidly. James observed the tableau with his politician's eye for reading people and situations. That's quite a bond they formed, he murmured to Madison. Your sister seems very attached to the child, and the father clearly adores her. This could become problematic very quickly if we don't take decisive action soon. Madison knew she had to escalate her tactics and fast. From her hotel room, she made a call to a private investigator she had used for sensitive legal cases. I need you to dig up everything you can on Dr. Caroline Matthews. I want to know about any malpractice suits, any personal issues, any reason why she might be considered unstable or unfit to be around children. Check her college years, her residency, any romantic relationships that ended badly. I don't care how much it costs or how deep you have to dig. I need ammunition, and I need it within 48 hours. Her voice was cold and calculating as she paced the room. If Caroline wouldn't take the hint and leave voluntarily, Madison would destroy her sister's reputation and credibility piece by piece until no one would believe anything she said about Lily's parentage. In the adjoining room, Senator Harrison was making his own strategic calls. Listen carefully. I need you to have a quiet conversation with Fire Chief Roberts in Willow Creek. Suggest that perhaps Ryan Thompson should consider relocating for better opportunities. Maybe a position in Charlotte or Atlanta, somewhere with more advancement potential and better pay. Make it sound like career advancement, not pressure. Use your connections at the state level if necessary. James understood that sometimes the most effective way to eliminate a problem was to remove all the players from the board entirely. If Ryan and Lily moved away from Willow Creek, Caroline would have no reason to stay, and Madison's secret would remain safely buried forever. Political problems required political solutions, and he had spent decades learning how to make inconvenient people disappear from his life. That evening, Dorothy's worst fears came true when she accidentally fell down the stairs at her own home. The fall was discovered by a neighbor who heard the crash, but by the time the ambulance arrived, Dorothy was unconscious with a severe head injury. Caroline rushed to the hospital, her medical training immediately recognizing the signs of a serious concussion. But something felt wrong about the accident. Dorothy was careful and familiar with every step in her own home. Caroline couldn't shake the feeling that her grandmother's fall might not have been accidental, especially given the timing. Someone wanted Dorothy silenced before she could reveal more family secrets. As Caroline examined her grandmother's injuries, she noticed something troubling. The pattern of bruising and the location of the head trauma weren't consistent with a simple fall down carpeted stairs. There were marks on Dorothy's arms that looked like grip bruises, and the angle of impact suggested she might have been pushed rather than having simply lost her footing. Caroline's hands trembled as she documented the injuries, realizing that someone in her family was capable of violence to protect their secrets. Dorothy had been the keeper of too many truths, and now someone had tried to silence her permanently. The stakes of this family drama had just escalated to a terrifying new level. Ryan found Caroline in the hospital waiting room, tears streaming down her face as she processed the possibility that someone had tried to hurt Dorothy. Caroline, what's wrong? Is your grandmother going to be okay? His arms wrapped around her naturally, and Caroline found herself collapsing against his chest, overwhelmed by everything that was happening. Ryan, There are things about my family that you don't understand. Dangerous things. People who will hurt anyone to protect their secrets. She wanted to tell him everything right then. About Lily, about Madison's lies, about the growing threat to their fragile happiness. But how could she burden him with the truth when his daughter's safety might be at stake? Caroline's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop digging into the past, or what happened to Dorothy will happen to others you care about. Take the Boston job and disappear, or watch everyone you love get hurt. Caroline's blood ran cold as she realized Madison's campaign against her had turned violent and threatening. Her sister wasn't just protecting a secret anymore. She was willing to hurt innocent people to maintain her perfect life with Senator Harrison. Caroline looked toward the pediatric ward, where she knew Lily was probably sleeping peacefully, and realized that her daughter might be in actual physical danger if Caroline continued to pursue the truth. The next day, Deputy Chief Mike Roberts called Ryan into his office with news that seemed too convenient to be coincidental. Ryan, I've had some interesting calls about you lately. There's a position opening up in the Charlotte Fire Department, battalion chief level, significant pay increase, excellent benefits. They specifically asked about you, said they'd heard great things about your work here. Ryan was confused by the sudden opportunity. I appreciate it, Chief, but I'm happy here in Willow Creek. Lily's settled. She has friends, and there's someone special I'm hoping to build a relationship with. Mike's expression grew serious. Son, sometimes opportunities like this don't come around twice. You might want to consider what's best for your daughter's future. Meanwhile, Caroline was discovering that Madison's smear campaign was already working. At the local coffee shop, conversation stopped when she entered, and she overheard whispered comments about her being obsessed with Ryan's daughter and acting strange since returning to town. Someone had been spreading rumors that Caroline was mentally unstable, that she had come back to Willow Creek with ulterior motives involving Ryan and Lily. The carefully planted gossip was designed to make people question Caroline's mental state and credibility, ensuring that if she did try to reveal the truth about Lily's parentage, no one would believe her. Madison was systematically destroying Caroline's reputation in the community where she had grown up. That evening, Ryan finally confronted Caroline directly about the growing tension and strange rumors. Caroline, I need you to be honest with me. People are saying things about you, about your behavior around Lily. I don't believe the gossip, but I can see that something is eating you alive. You're jumpy, emotional, and sometimes you look at Lily like... He paused, struggling to find the words. Like you're heartbroken about something I don't understand. If there's something I need to know, something that affects Lily's safety or well-being, you have to tell me. I'm falling in love with you, but I'm a father first, and I'll always choose what's best for my daughter. Caroline sat beside Ryan on the park bench where they had almost kissed just days earlier, knowing that this moment would determine the course of all their lives. She could tell him the truth, that Lily was biologically their daughter, that Madison had orchestrated an elaborate deception, that the little girl he loved was actually Caroline's child. But telling the truth would expose Lily to a custody battle, potentially traumatize the child, and put everyone Caroline loved in danger for Madison and James's increasingly desperate attempts to protect their secret. Or she could remain silent, take the Boston job, and walk away from her daughter forever, leaving Lily safe and loved with the only father she had ever known. The weight of the decision was crushing her, because either choice would destroy someone she loved completely. Caroline made the agonizing decision to get definitive proof before confronting anyone with accusations that could destroy multiple lives. During what appeared to be innocent playtime at the park, she carefully collected strands of Lily's hair from her brush after the little girl had been on the swings. Her hands shook as she placed the hair in a small envelope, knowing that this DNA test would either confirm her worst fears or prove that her emotional state was making her imagine impossible connections. The guilt of taking genetic material from her suspected daughter without permission ate at Caroline's conscience. But she needed scientific proof before she could move forward with any plan. At a private lab 2 towns over, Caroline submitted both hair samples under false names, paying cash to ensure complete anonymity. The lab technician explained that results would be available in 72 hours, But those 3 days felt like an eternity stretching ahead of Caroline. As she drove back to Willow Creek, she tried to prepare herself for both possible outcomes: confirmation that Lily was her biological daughter, or discovering that her emotional trauma and desperation to be a mother had made her construct an elaborate fantasy. Either result would change her life forever, but she had to know the truth before she could decide what to do about Ryan, about Lily, and about Madison's increasingly dangerous attempts to silence her. While waiting for the DNA results, Caroline found herself drawn deeper into a romantic relationship with Ryan, even as the guilt of her deception ate away at her conscience. During a beautiful dinner at Willow Creek's only upscale restaurant, Ryan opened his heart completely. "Caroline, I know this is fast, but I can't fight these feelings anymore. You make me feel alive again in a way I haven't since high school. And watching you with Lily, it's like you were always meant to be part of our family." His words were both a blessing and a curse for Caroline, because if the DNA test confirmed her suspicions, she actually was meant to be part of their family, but not in the way Ryan imagined. As Ryan reached across the table to take her hand, Caroline fought back tears of guilt and confusion. She was falling in love with him all over again, but their entire relationship was built on a foundation of lies and hidden truths. How could she accept his love when she was keeping such a massive secret from him? How could she kiss him goodnight, knowing that she might be the biological mother of the child he believed he had adopted from a stranger? The weight of the deception was becoming unbearable, but Caroline couldn't bring herself to destroy his happiness until she had concrete proof of what she suspected. Madison's private investigator was more thorough than she had expected, and within 48 hours, he had traced Caroline's activities to the DNA testing facility. "Your sister visited a private lab in Greenville 2 days ago," he reported over the phone. "She submitted hair samples for paternity testing under assumed names, but I have contacts who confirm the samples came from her and a young child." Madison's carefully controlled facade cracked as she realized Caroline was getting dangerously close to obtaining proof that could destroy everything. The DNA test results would confirm what Madison had hidden for 4 years, and once Caroline had that evidence, there would be no stopping her from revealing the truth. Madison couldn't wait for the DNA results to come back. That night, she cornered Caroline in the hospital parking lot after visiting hours, her composure finally completely shattered. "You just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? You had to order that DNA test. You had to keep digging and digging until you destroyed everyone's happiness." Caroline had never seen her sister like this, wild-eyed, desperate, and clearly capable of violence. "Madison, tell me the truth. Is Lily my daughter? Did you give birth to Ryan's baby and let him adopt her without telling either of us?" The question hung in the air between them like a loaded gun. Madison's walls finally crumbled completely as years of lies and guilt poured out of her. Yes, she's your daughter. I was 17 and terrified and pregnant, and you had abandoned me for your precious medical school. Ryan was kind to me after you left, and one thing led to another, but I never meant for it to happen." Tears streamed down Madison's face as she continued her confession. "When I found out I was pregnant, I knew it would ruin everything. My future, my reputation, my chances at law school. So I told Ryan the baby died during birth, and I told you I was studying abroad. But I gave birth to that little girl, and when Ryan mentioned wanting to adopt someday, I saw the perfect solution." Caroline felt her entire world collapse as Madison continued her devastating confession. "I forged the adoption papers, created a fake identity for the birth mother, and convinced Ryan he was saving an abandoned baby. He was so grateful, so happy to be a father, and Lily got a loving home. I thought I had solved everyone's problems." Caroline could barely breathe as the magnitude of her sister's betrayal sank in. "You stole 4 years of my daughter's life from me. For years of being her mother, of watching her grow up, of tucking her in at night. You let me believe I was childless while my own baby was growing up calling another woman mama in her heart because you were too selfish to face the consequences of your choices." Madison's confession turned into desperate threats as she realized the full implications of what she had revealed. If you tell Ryan the truth, I'll destroy all of you. I'll claim you're mentally unstable, that you're stalking his family. James has connections everywhere. We can make your life disappear. We can take Lily away from Ryan completely and put her in foster care, where neither of you will ever see her again. Caroline realized that her sister wasn't just protecting a secret anymore. She was fighting for her entire future, her engagement to a powerful senator, and her carefully constructed new identity. Madison would do anything, hurt anyone, to keep her house of lies from collapsing. 3 days later, Caroline sat alone in her childhood bedroom, holding the DNA test results with trembling hands. The official laboratory letterhead confirmed what her heart had known from the moment she saw Lily's green eyes. Probability of maternity, 99.97%. Caroline was definitively, scientifically, undeniably Lily's biological mother. As she stared at the black and white proof of Madison's 4-year deception, Caroline realized that everything she thought she knew about her family, her past, and her future had been built on lies. Her own sister had orchestrated the most elaborate and cruel deception imaginable, stealing Caroline's chance to be a mother and Ryan's right to know the truth about his adopted daughter. Now Caroline faced an impossible choice: expose the truth and potentially traumatize Lily and destroy Ryan's trust, or remain silent and let Madison's lies continue forever. The DNA test results confirmed Caroline's deepest fears and greatest hopes simultaneously. Lily was definitively her biological daughter. As she held the scientific proof in her trembling hands, Caroline felt 4 years of stolen motherhood crash down on her like a physical weight. She had missed Lily's first words, first steps, first day of school, countless bedtime stories, and scrape-knee kisses. Madison had robbed her of the most precious years of her daughter's life. And now Caroline faced an impossible dilemma. How could she tell Ryan that the woman he was falling in love with was actually the biological mother of his adopted daughter? How could she explain that their love story was built on the foundation of the most elaborate family deception imaginable? Caroline spent hours pacing her childhood bedroom, the DNA results clutched in her hands as she tried to process the magnitude of what she now knew. Every interaction with Lily took on new meaning. The instant connection, the way the little girl had called her angel doctor, the natural maternal instincts that had felt so overwhelming. It hadn't been her imagination or wishful thinking. It had been biology calling to biology, a mother recognizing her child on the most fundamental level. But knowing the truth also meant understanding the full scope of Madison's betrayal. Her sister hadn't just hidden a pregnancy. She had orchestrated an elaborate fraud that had stolen Caroline's chance to raise her own child and denied Ryan a right to know he was raising his biological daughter. Caroline faced the most agonizing decision of her life. Telling Ryan the truth would mean admitting that she had been lying to him since the moment she discovered Lily's identity. It would mean revealing that his trusted adoption was built on forged documents and deception. Ryan would feel betrayed not just by Madison, but by Caroline for keeping such a massive secret. Worse, it could traumatize Lily, who might not understand why the adults in her life had been lying about something so fundamental as her parentage. But staying silent meant living a lie forever, accepting a romantic relationship with Ryan while hiding that she was actually the biological mother of his adopted daughter. Either choice seemed impossible, and either choice would hurt people she loved. Meanwhile, Senator Harrison was taking no chances with his political future. He had called an emergency meeting with his top advisors and legal team to discuss the Caroline problem. "We need to be prepared for any scenario," he explained grimly. "If Caroline Matthews decides to make wild accusations about family secrets, we need to be ready to discredit her completely. I want psychological evaluations suggesting she's mentally unstable. I want witnesses who can testify to erratic behavior. And I want legal precedents for removing children from dangerous situations." His voice was cold and calculating as he continued. "My campaign cannot afford even a whisper of scandal, and I won't let some emotionally disturbed doctor destroy everything Madison and I have built together." Madison knew that Caroline now had the DNA proof that could destroy everything, so she shifted into full legal warfare mode. Her hotel room looked like a law office, covered with legal documents, precedent cases, and strategic plans. She was preparing to file an emergency injunction claiming that Caroline was mentally unstable and posed a danger to Lily's well-being. If she tries to reveal the truth, I'll claim she's having a psychotic break and is delusional about being Lily's mother, Madison muttered to herself as she drafted legal papers. I'll present the DNA test as evidence of her obsession, not proof of maternity. No one will believe her if I destroy her credibility first. Madison was prepared to sacrifice her sister's reputation and mental health to protect her own secret. Dorothy finally regained consciousness after days in a medically induced coma, and her first words to Caroline changed everything. "Honey, I kept Madison's secret for too long and almost killed me, literally. I have evidence hidden in my house, documents that prove everything Madison did. Birth certificates, hospital records, even recorded conversations where she admitted to forging the adoption papers." Dorothy's voice was weak, but determined as she gripped Caroline's hand. "I was scared of Madison, scared of what she might do if I told the truth. But after my accident, I realized that staying silent is more dangerous than speaking up. That girl needs to face the consequences of what she's done to you and to Ryan and to that innocent little baby." Following Dorothy's instructions, Caroline searched her grandmother's house and found a hidden cache of documents that took her breath away. Madison had been sloppy in her youth, keeping copies of everything just in case. There were hospital records showing Madison's real name as the birth mother, copies of the forged adoption documents with Madison's handwriting visible in the margins, and most damning of all, a recorded phone conversation where Madison bragged to a friend about solving her problem by letting Ryan adopt the baby without knowing the truth. Caroline realized that Dorothy had been gathering evidence for years, perhaps planning to eventually reveal the truth, but too frightened of Madison's increasingly violent threats to act on her knowledge. Ryan could no longer ignore the growing tension and strange behavior that surrounded Caroline's return to Willow Creek. "Caroline, I need you to be completely honest with me. The rumors, the way you act around Lily, the fact that your sister seems terrified of you. Something is very wrong here. I love you, but I'm also Lily's father, and I have to protect her from anything that might hurt her." His voice was firm but loving as he continued. "If there's something you're not telling me about Lily, about our family, I need to know now. I can handle the truth, whatever it is, but I can't handle being lied to by someone I'm falling in love with." Caroline realized that Ryan was giving her an opening to tell him everything, but she was still terrified of how he would react to learning the truth. Caroline sat across from Ryan in Dorothy's living room. The DNA test results and Dorothy's hidden evidence spread on a coffee table between them like weapons of truth. "Ryan, what I'm about to tell you is going to change everything you believe about Lily, about me, about your family." Her voice shook as she began the most difficult conversation of her life. 4 years ago, my sister Madison was pregnant. The father was you, from your brief relationship after I left for medical school. But instead of telling you the truth, she told you the baby died and told me she was studying abroad. The baby she gave birth to, the baby she convinced you to adopt through forged paperwork, was Lily. "Ryan, Lily isn't just your adopted daughter. She's our biological daughter." Ryan's world shattered completely as Caroline's words sank in. He stared at the DNA test results, at Dorothy's evidence, at the woman he loved who had just revealed that she was the biological mother of his adopted daughter. "You're telling me that for 4 years, I've been raising my own biological child without knowing it? That Madison, that she lied to both of us and forged legal documents to make me adopt my own daughter?" His voice broke as the full implications hit him. "And you've known this since you came back to town, haven't you? You've been lying to me, letting me fall in love with you while you knew you were Lily's real mother." The betrayal and confusion in his eyes was devastating, and Caroline realized that telling the truth might have just destroyed any chance they had of being together as a family. Ryan's initial shock quickly transformed into a mixture of rage, betrayal, and devastating confusion. "For years, Caroline, for years I've been raising my own biological daughter, believing I was doing some noble thing by adopting an abandoned baby. And you've known this for weeks and said nothing while I fell in love with you all over again." He ran his hands through his hair, his voice breaking with emotion. "Do you have any idea what this does to me? What this does to Lily? She thinks I'm just her adoptive dad, but I'm actually her biological father, and the woman I'm in love with is actually her biological mother. How do I even begin to process this kind of deception?" Caroline had never seen Ryan so angry, so hurt, so completely shattered by the revelation. Caroline tried desperately to make Ryan understand her impossible position. "Ryan, I know how this looks, but I was trying to protect everyone. I didn't know how to tell you that I was Lily's biological mother without destroying her sense of security and family. I was terrified that you'd hate me, that you'd think I was trying to steal her away from you." Tears streamed down her face as she continued. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I came back to take care of Grandma Dorothy, and suddenly I'm face to face with a daughter I never knew existed and the man I never stopped loving. I was drowning in an impossible situation, and I made mistakes because I was trying to protect the people I love most in this world." But Ryan was too hurt and angry to hear her explanations. The revelation shattered Ryan's entire sense of identity and purpose. "Everything I thought I knew about myself as a father is a lie. I thought I was this generous man who saved an abandoned baby, but it turns out I was just, what? Being manipulated into raising my own child by a teenager who was too scared to tell the truth." He looked up at Caroline with pain-filled eyes. "And Lily, how do I tell a 4-year-old that everything she knows about her family is wrong? That her adoptive daddy is actually her real daddy, and that the nice lady she's been calling Miss Caroline is actually her real mommy? She's going to be so confused and scared." Ryan realized that Madison's deception hadn't just stolen years from Caroline. It had robbed him of the joy of knowing he was raising his biological daughter. Caroline knew she had to take full responsibility for her part in perpetuating Madison's lies. "Ryan, you have every right to be furious with me. I should have told you the truth the moment I suspected, but I was selfish. I was so desperate to be part of Lily's life, so terrified of losing both of you, that I convinced myself I was protecting everyone when I was really just protecting myself." She picked up the DNA results with shaking hands. "I stole these weeks with you and Lily under false pretenses. I let you fall in love with me while I was keeping the biggest secret imaginable. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now, but I need you to know that every moment with both of you has been the most precious time of my life, even though it was built on lies I was too cowardly to reveal." While Caroline and Ryan were processing the devastating truth, Madison was making her final, most desperate play. She filed emergency legal papers claiming that both Caroline and Ryan were unfit parents due to mental instability and delusional behavior. Her legal strategy was brilliant and ruthless. She argued that Caroline's obsessive behavior and false claims of maternity proved she was dangerous to Lily, while Ryan's inability to properly vet an adoption showed he was negligent as a guardian. "If I can't keep my secret anymore, then I'll make sure neither of them gets to keep Lily," Madison told her lawyer coldly. "Foster care is better than letting them destroy that child with their delusions and dysfunction." She was prepared to sacrifice Lily's happiness to protect her own reputation. Senator Harrison unleashed the full power of his political connections to destroy Caroline's credibility and Ryan's parental rights. He made calls to the state child protective services, the medical board that licensed Caroline, and influential judges who owed him political favors. "Dr. Caroline Matthews is clearly having a psychotic break," he told anyone who would listen. "She's developed delusional attachments to a firefighter's adopted daughter, and now she's making wild claims about being the child's biological mother. The child needs to be removed from this toxic situation immediately." James was systematically destroying both Caroline and Ryan's reputations, ensuring that even if they tried to fight Madison's legal claims, no one in authority would believe them or support them. Caroline and Ryan's world collapsed further when they were served with emergency legal papers demanding Lily's immediate removal from Ryan's custody. The documents painted Caroline as a mentally unstable stalker who had developed dangerous delusions about being Lily's mother, and described Ryan as a negligent guardian who had allowed an unstable woman access to his vulnerable adopted daughter. "She's trying to take Lily away from both of us," Caroline whispered in horror as she read the legal accusations. "Madison would rather see our daughter in foster care than admit what she did." Ryan stared at the papers in disbelief, realizing that Madison's final strategy was to destroy everyone rather than face the consequences of her lies. Despite their personal pain and broken trust, Caroline and Ryan realized they had to put aside their hurt feelings to protect Lily. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you for lying to me," Ryan said quietly, "but I know that Lily belongs with us, not in foster care because of Madison's manipulation. We have to fight this together, even if I don't know what us means anymore." Caroline nodded through her tears, understanding that Ryan might never trust her again, but grateful that he was willing to fight for their daughter. "We have Dorothy's evidence, the DNA test, and the truth on our side. Madison may have powerful connections, but we have something she doesn't. We actually love Lily and want what's best for her." They began planning their legal defense. Two heartbroken parents united only by their determination to protect their child. The custody hearing became a public spectacle when Dorothy, despite her serious injuries, insisted on testifying from a wheelchair. "I've kept Madison's secrets for 4 years, and it nearly got me killed," she announced to the packed courtroom. "That girl pushed me down those stairs because I threatened to tell the truth about what she did to Caroline and Ryan and that precious baby." The courtroom erupted as Dorothy presented her carefully preserved evidence: birth certificates, hospital records, and a recorded confession where Madison bragged about her deception. Madison Matthews is not trying to protect a child. She's trying to protect herself from facing the consequences of the most cruel and elaborate lie I've ever witnessed. Dorothy's testimony was devastating to Madison's case and credibility. The most heartbreaking moment of the entire legal battle came when the judge interviewed Lily privately in his chambers. With the innocence that only a 4-year-old possesses, Lily told the judge exactly how she felt about the adults in her life. "I love my daddy Ryan the most in the whole world, and I want Miss Caroline to be my real mommy because she makes my daddy happy, and she reads the best stories, and she smells like flowers and hugs." When the judge gently asked about the scary lady with blonde hair, Lily's expression grew fearful. "She has mean eyes, and she made Grandma fall down the stairs. I don't want to live with mean people." The child's honest testimony cut through all the legal maneuvering and political manipulation, revealing the simple truth that Lily felt safe and loved with Caroline and Ryan, and frightened of Madison. Dorothy's testimony proved to be the turning point in the custody battle. Despite her injuries and frail condition, she presented years of carefully documented evidence that destroyed Madison's credibility completely. "Your Honor, I have hospital records showing Madison Matthews as the birth mother, copies of forged adoption documents with her handwriting, and recorded conversations where she admitted to orchestrating this entire deception." The courtroom was silent as Dorothy continued. "Madison didn't just lie to her sister and Ryan. She committed fraud, forgery, and when I threatened to expose her, she tried to kill me by pushing me down my stairs. This young woman is dangerous, and she should be nowhere near that innocent child." The judge's expression grew increasingly stern as he reviewed the overwhelming evidence of Madison's elaborate deception. Dr. Helen Foster had flown in from Seattle specifically to testify on Caroline's behalf, and her testimony was both professional and deeply personal. "Your Honor, I have supervised Dr. Caroline Matthews for 3 years, and she is one of the most dedicated, ethical, and compassionate physicians I have ever worked with. The idea that she would harm a child or act irrationally is absolutely absurd." Helen's voice grew emotional as she continued. "When Caroline called to tell me she had discovered she had a daughter she never knew existed, my heart broke for her. But even in her pain, her first concern was for the child's well-being and emotional security. That's the kind of person Caroline is. She puts children's needs above her own desires, which is exactly the quality you want in a mother." Her testimony painted Caroline as a dedicated professional whose maternal instincts were grounded in genuine love and medical expertise. The most powerful testimony came from Lily herself during a private conversation with the judge in his chambers. With the heartbreaking honesty that only children possess, Lily expressed her feelings clearly and simply. "I want to stay with my daddy, Ryan, because he's the best daddy in the whole world, and he makes me pancakes and reads me stories every night." When asked about Caroline, Lily's face lit up with pure joy. "Miss Caroline should be my real mommy because she has the same eyes as me, and she knows how to make my owies feel better, and she sings the prettiest songs." But when the judge gently asked about Madison, Lily's expression grew fearful and sad. "The blonde lady has scary eyes, and she hurt Grandma. I don't want to live with mean people who hurt grandmas." The child's innocent testimony cut through all the legal maneuvering and revealed the simple truth about who made her feel safe and loved. Deputy Chief Mike Roberts provided crucial testimony about Ryan's character and capabilities as both a firefighter and a father. "Your Honor, Ryan Thompson is one of the finest men I've ever known. He's saved countless lives in our community, and he's raised that little girl with more love and dedication than most biological parents show their children." Mike's voice grew firm as he continued. "The idea that Ryan is somehow unfit to parent Lily is ridiculous. I've watched him balance single parenthood with a demanding career for 4 years, and that child is happy, healthy, and secure because of Ryan's devotion. If anything, learning that Lily is his biological daughter only proves that his love for her was always meant to be." The community support for Ryan was overwhelming, with dozens of people filling the courtroom to show their faith in his character. As witness after witness testified against them, Madison and Senator Harrison realized their carefully constructed case was crumbling. James's political connections couldn't overcome the mountain of evidence, proving Madison's deception and fraud. "This is a disaster," James whispered harshly to Madison during a brief recess. "Your lies and manipulations are going to destroy my political career. I can't be associated with someone who commits fraud and attempts murder." Madison watched in horror as her perfectly planned life began to unravel. The man she thought would protect her was already calculating how to distance himself from the scandal. She was losing everything: her fiancé, her reputation, her family, and any chance of controlling the narrative about Lily's parentage. Judge Harrison, no relation to the senator, delivered his verdict with the wisdom that comes from decades on the bench. After reviewing all the evidence and testimony, this court finds that Madison Matthews engaged in systematic fraud, forgery, and deception that harmed multiple parties over several years. The evidence clearly shows that Lily Thompson is the biological daughter of Caroline Matthews and Ryan Thompson. The courtroom held its breath as he continued. However, this court's primary concern is the best interest of the child. Lily has lived her entire life with Ryan Thompson as her father, and disrupting that relationship would not serve her well-being. Caroline's heart sank, thinking she was about to lose her daughter again, but the judge wasn't finished with his ruling. The judge's final ruling was both wise and compassionate. While Ryan Thompson will retain primary custody of Lily, this court hereby grants Caroline Matthews full parental rights as Lily's biological mother, including substantial visitation, participation in major decisions, and the right to develop a mother-daughter relationship. Caroline began crying with relief as the judge explained his reasoning. Both Ryan and Caroline are clearly devoted to this child's well-being, and Lily has expressed love and attachment to both parents. The court sees no reason why this child should be denied the love of both her biological parents simply because of another person's deception. He turned his stern gaze toward Madison. "As for Madison Matthews, you will face criminal charges for fraud, forgery, and assault. You are hereby banned from any contact with a minor child, Lily Thompson." Madison's world collapsed completely as the judge's verdict sealed her fate. James Harrison immediately distanced himself from her, announcing loudly enough for reporters to hear that their engagement was over due to her criminal deception and mental instability. As she was escorted from the courthouse to face criminal charges, Madison looked back at Caroline with pure hatred. "You've destroyed everything I work for," she hissed. "I'll never forgive you for this." But Caroline felt no satisfaction in her sister's downfall. Only sadness that Madison's choices had led to such devastating consequences for everyone involved. Dorothy, despite everything Madison had done to her, wept to see her younger granddaughter led away in handcuffs, understanding that the family would never be the same. 6 months after the trial, Caroline and Ryan were slowly rebuilding their relationship on a foundation of honesty and shared love for Lily. "I'm still hurt that you didn't trust me with the truth from the beginning," Ryan admitted as they watched Lily play in Dorothy's garden. "But I understand why you were scared, and I can see how much you love her. Every day I watch you with Lily. I see a mother who would do anything to protect her daughter's happiness, even if it meant sacrificing your own." Caroline took his hand tentatively. "I know I have to earn back your trust, Ryan, but I promise I'll never lie to you again. We're Lily's parents together, whether we're together romantically or not. She deserves to have both of us in her life, honest and committed to her well-being above everything else." The story concluded with a scene of healing and new beginnings. Caroline had permanently moved back to Willow Creek and was working at the local hospital, finally living in the same town as her daughter. Ryan had proposed 3 months earlier, and they were planning a small wedding where Lily would be the flower girl. As they knelt together in Dorothy's garden, planting flowers for the spring, Lily looked up at them with those bright green eyes that had started it all. "Mommy Caroline, will you always be my real mommy now?" she asked with 4-year-old seriousness. Caroline's eyes filled with happy tears as she kissed her daughter's forehead. "Always and forever, sweetheart. Daddy Ryan and I will always be your family." The little girl beamed and threw her arms around both parents. "I'm so happy I have the best mommy and daddy in the whole world." As the sun set over Willow Creek, the family that had been torn apart by lies and deception was finally whole, bound together by truth, love, and the unbreakable bonds that connect parents to their children. Where are you watching from today? This incredible story shows us that truth and love can overcome even the most devastating deceptions. If this tale of family, forgiveness, and second chances touched your heart, please give us a like and subscribe for more amazing stories that prove love always finds a way.